So the reasons I chose or wanted to buy the Hero5 were because it was 2 generations, it seemed like a big step. The linear mode, so that takes out the fisheye, I really like, because I'm not a fan of the very wide fisheye look, and I've got used to the DJI Phantom, which has no fisheye, and the Osmo, which again has no fisheye. I originally wanted to buy the Karma, the quadcopter, with the handheld gimbal with the Hero5, but it was quite soon obvious that GoPro weren't going to sell that in the UK, and also that there's no UK support for GoPro. GoPro used to have a distributor in the UK, Madison, I think. When I bought my Hero 3, they were the distributor. There are lots of independent shops that were knowledgeable, like Hobby Mounts would supply the GoPro and support them and would know how to fix problems and issues. For some reason, GoPro have removed that, so they no longer have any UK distributor. They supply GoPro direct from Holland, and they only supply the big chains, so Curry's and John Lewis, which is fine if you just want to buy it, but if you want any help or support, they're not going to be knowledgeable, so it doesn't help. Now for the camera, I wasn't too worried about that, because if it's faulty, I'll send it back. If it works, I'll keep it. For the quadcopter, I imagine that would be more of a problem, so I was in a way relieved when the Karma flopped, so that wasn't an issue. But I got the Hero5 anyway. So yeah, the things I was looking for were the linear mode, which I really like, having a touchscreen on the back so that for settings and to see what you've recorded, I thought would be really lovely, and it is very nice. And the voice control, which is a bit of a gimmick, but I think it's a feature that nothing else has, so that was the other thing that drew me to it. So those are the reasons I bought it. The video quality I'm really pleased with. The usability of it is nice. There's a couple of real niggles. My main niggle is the frame that it comes with. There's no way to mount this on anything. It doesn't have a tripod mount on the bottom, which I think it should have. So the only way you can mount it is with the frame, and the frame I just think is a really bad design. On the old Hero, I can't even get my fingers around it. On the old Hero 3, the frame mount was just a little wraparound frame that you just clip it into, and it holds the camera. So it was really easy to take on and off. It's a very simple, just cheap little plastic frame. It works perfectly, does exactly what you need. The Hero 5 is a much more overly complicated, pointless thing. So basically you have to push the camera into it. Now, because the camera's got a rubber coating, it doesn't just drop in, you have to actually push it in. And when you do that, 9 times out of 10, you will put your finger on the lens. So then you have to have a cloth with you so you can wipe the lens. You then have to close the back and then shut the door. The touchscreen, in order to get the menus up, you have to touch the top of the screen and pull down. Now that time it worked, but often, that time it didn't work, 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 that time it didn't work. Now the clip is really awkward to open. You have to get your nails under it. Now if you've got gloves on, you won't be able to do that. Now when the screen is open, the menu works really reliably. There you go, that's fine. Again. As soon as you shut the frame, it's really hard to get it. Now the reason is because physically this frame blocks the edge of the screen, so it's just a bad design. The fake frames, yeah, the other problem is when you want to change a battery or take it out of the frame, if you push it's awkward to push out, again, without touching the lens. GoPro don't make a lens mount for the Hero 5, so you can buy them aftermarket. This one's really nice, little clip-on plastic one. I've tried the soft silicone ones, I don't like them as much. The plastic one's fine, but you can't put it into the frame with that lens cap on. So you have to take the lens cap off, push it into the frame, and then put the lens cap back on again, which again is really awkward, so I absolutely hate the frame. I wish and hope that either GoPro, again, I'm trying to get it out and I can't, it's jammed, and the only way I can get it out is by pushing on the lens. So then I have to wipe the lens. If I forget that, then you end up with smudgy photos or video. So yeah, it's just silly. It's just a bad design. I don't understand how anyone thought that was a good enough job. The fake frames you can get are slightly better actually. They're much easier to open and close. They've got more of a lip on the clip. Still, you can do it with gloves on, but it's better. The other thing is it's got just a hole on the side for the mode button, rather than having this rubber cover which doesn't really do anything useful. You can just touch the button easily. And then the other side, it's got a much bigger gap so that when the camera is in here, you can actually open the hatch to get to the ports, which might be useful for some people. On the GoPro case, the only way to get to the ports would be to remove the hatch cover before you put the camera in the frame, which again is unnecessary. Why not just have it like this so you can get to it easily? That makes much more sense. So what GoPro need to do is to make a wraparound, or someone else could make a wraparound frame exactly the same style as this old Hero3 frame that just opens to put the camera in. You just need to make one of these that fits the Hero5. You just literally would just wrap it round and stick it into a mount. That way that fixes all these problems. So hopefully they can do that. The other problem I've had with the Hero5 is the Wi-Fi is not as easy to use. With Hero3, you could rename the cameras and you could change the password. Now I have 2 Hero3s and I had 4 mobile devices, Android and iOS. So what I do is I just rename the cameras to JB Hero 1 and JB Hero 2, and then I set the passwords the same, and then they would work with any of those devices. Now if I had to update the firmware or reset the camera, I just rename the camera back to its old name, reset the password, and everything works perfectly. The Hero5, you cannot rename the camera. It's fixed to the serial number, which is obviously different for each camera. You also can't change the password. You can reset the password, which will set it to a random word, but then if you upgrade the firmware or you reset the password again, it changes it to a new random word. Now, if you had 2 or 3 of these cameras and you had 3 or 4 mobile devices, you would constantly be setting up the Wi-Fi over and over again. So again, that's just crazy. And I asked GoPro about this, said, you know, you need to be able to rename the camera, you need to be able to set the password. And they just copy and paste the manual to me and say, no, you can't. The other problem with the Hero5 is the batteries. GoPro have decided that you can only use a genuine GoPro battery. Now, when they released the camera, you could use other batteries. A few companies started making them, but GoPro quietly had said they wouldn't allow other batteries, but didn't actually enforce that until the 1.55 firmware. That now blocks out any battery that isn't a GoPro battery. So you have to use a GoPro battery, which I can understand why they might do that, because they want to sell their batteries and they don't want to support other people's battery problems. But I've had a problem with this battery that I bought with the second. I had to buy the GoPro dual charger and battery from the GoPro website, because I can't, there were no UK suppliers that had them. Had to come from Holland, took over a week. When it arrived, this battery doesn't charge properly. The orange light stays on, it never goes green. Most of the time, some of the time it does, but 2 times out of 3, it will not finish charging. Now the original battery works fine, it goes on orange, charges and then goes green. This battery doesn't. Now I contacted GoPro and after a week of arguing back and forward, they wanted to see how long it lasted in the camera, which wasn't the problem. They eventually said they'd replace it. That was on the 14th of December. I still haven't received the battery. It's now the 14th of January, so it's been a month. The UK GoPro store doesn't show these batteries anymore. I think they are out of stock. If they want to make you use a GoPro battery, that's fine, but they then have to make sure they never run out of the batteries, and they have to make sure if you have a problem with the battery, they replace it really quickly. Otherwise, it just becomes impossible to use. So that's really silly and bad. The other thing I don't like about the Hero5 is changing the memory card is awkward. It's in next to the battery, but it's slightly below it. So to change it in place is really fiddly. Now, if you take the battery out, it's much easier. I get it in there, and then I have to sort of put my thumb down inside the battery compartment, and then it goes in, and then I can put the battery back. Now, you can do it with the battery in place. Again, it's just a little bit awkward. It's not impossible, it's just fiddly, and there's no need for that. Now, I appreciate it had to be under a flap, but I don't understand why it couldn't have been under the side flap with the HDMI ports. They could have made this flap a little bit bigger, put it there, or they could have made it just a little bit prouder. At the moment, because it's slightly recessed from the battery, it's just a little bit too difficult to get in and out, and there's no need for that.